Good evening. Dr. Faith Brebner here. Dr. Faith Brebner, Deputy Chief Secretary, Secretary with Responsibility for Health, Wellness, and Social Protection, and I am here doing this wrap up for day two. Yes, it's day two. By the way, the conference is only 3 days. Day two for the 11th International Conference on Public Health, and I am in Bangkok, China. We are now kind of wrapping up the afternoon. We see a lot of people behind me, and I just wanted to bring, some of the things that we highlighted in today's sessions. Really, really good set of sessions today, and I kind of have them written so that I don't forget. Um, One of the things that I have a challenge with, and I think it is everywhere, I'm recognizing that it is everywhere, is this idea of how we do multisectoral collaboration, and how we ensure that people recognize that everything that we do has a health outcome, has a health challenge, or has a health related issue, and that through we need to work through incorporating health into everything you do. That of course requires a strong leadership. That of course requires everyone having an understanding of how what they are doing, the little things that they are doing, how that influences health. And I always use the example of construction. Most people don't realize that construction is actually one of the biggest ways of influencing health. How? If you are building a community and you did not incorporate in the build spaces for walking, you did not incorporate in the build safety mechanisms. So, for example, if you want people to walk, you have to find space for them to walk, but it has to be safe for them to walk. So, the lighting infrastructure and those things need to also be on point. All of those things influence whether you actually have walking paths or whether you've designed the community in a way that you have to drive everywhere. Those are the little things that are important, and those are the things that can influence whether a community is healthy or not after a build is happening. So there were several sessions talking about what we needed to do to ensure that we incorporate. And by the way, this is something, for example, that even public health in Tobago speaks about. I get the calls all the time from our public health inspectors talking about how much we need to include them and make sure they are part of it. So that's one aspect of health, but we're also talking about the other aspects of public health. Um, the second thing I wanted to highlight was the fact that part of these programs is there was actually a strategic networking session, and they are strategic networking sessions. What does that mean? They actually divide us into sections, different groups, and there is one person who is saying, okay, tell us what you are doing. And when an individual gets up and says, hi, I am Faith, I am the Secretary for Health, this is what we're working on, the other people who are part of the session would say, hey, you are someone I can collaborate with. My university is doing something that I think would work well with what you are doing. Or the research center that I am a part of doing research on this. And I think if we bring in what you are doing with this research, it would be perfect. Yeah. And we have the ability or the capacity to actually sit and listen to what people are doing outside of what is presenting and so forth to make those connections. So we've made connections that, I wouldn't want to talk too much about them, but we've made some connections with public health schools that we can collaborate with even the conference convener, so that we can work on getting similar conferences like these, for example, in our communities, how we can incorporate what we do in Tobago into some of these larger international events and so forth. Absolutely critical. And I think the last thing I want to chat about is it's what's the best way to put it? I have listened to so many sessions today, and it made me truly, truly, truly grateful about the quality of the care we have in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong. There is a lot that we need to improve on. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of stuff that we are doing that we need to improve on. But I am again continually recognizing that there is so much that we take for granted that other communities are when they present their paper. For example, there was a young lady who was a professor, I think, who was presenting about doing child care. And part of the problem was when they do child care in South Africa, I think it was, part of what they are working on is ensuring that the health providers have shoes because they're walking barefoot. You know what I mean? Or that they have umbrellas because they're walking in the hot sun and they're not driving to go anywhere to provide the care for these children. You all get what I'm saying? So it is, we are here and we are trying to improve on what we have. We are trying to improve on what we have, and by no means am I saying what we have is perfect and we should not be working on making it better. Of course, we have to make it better. That's why we're pushing. But I sat today with a sense of gratitude, with a sense of gratitude because of how far we have actually gotten and how advanced our healthcare system really is in Tobago. Again, it's not perfect. It's nowhere close to perfect, but we're not the worst. And I think that sometimes when we are aiming for better, we sometimes forget what we have. And I think that skews our perception. That skews our perception a bit, and it prevents us from recognizing our true benchmark, our true, this is where we are, and therefore these are the additional steps that we need to take to get to the additional level. You understand what I'm saying? I hope you all understand. I hope you all understand what I'm saying. And it is actually, it is something that I am cognizant of, and it is something that I have to take with me so that I don't come down too hard, for example, on our health professionals because they're doing a really good job. We just need to make sure that all of the little pieces that needed to be in place are in place, so that the system works, so that the system works. So yeah, so this is day two. This is day two of the International Conference on Public Health. Day two, and you see people behind me are taking pictures. That's why I took the photos yesterday in that nice banner back there. Um, the we just need to be cognizant of the fact that we are okay, but we just need to push a little bit to get to a higher state. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate the opportunity to represent Trinidad and Tobago, to represent the Tobago House of Assembly at this international conference, and I am reminded about how far we've gotten, but I am also very much cognizant of how much further we need to go. Have a blessed evening. Thanks. Bye.